Well, this is just fantastic. Another supposedly primitive species caught our attention, and naturally, the High Command decided we needed to run field tests. Because apparently, conquering 17 star systems wasn't enough proof of our technological superiority. No, we had to go poke the humans with a stick to see what they do. My name is Reconnaissance Officer Z97 Alpha, though my squad just calls me Z because military designations are apparently too complicated for combat situations. I have been tracking alien species for the hegemony for 12 cycles now, and I have seen everything from crystalline beings that communicate through light frequencies to slug-like creatures that reproduce by sneezing on each other. But humans? Humans are something else entirely. The briefing was standard enough. Bipedal mammals, carbon-based, recently achieved space flight, moderate threat level. What they didn't mention was that these particular mammals had this annoying habit of doing impossible things with laughably primitive equipment. Case in point, our current mission. Z, you getting readings on that human encampment? My squad leader, Vorth Prime, crackled through the comm unit embedded in my skull. His voice had that typical hegemony confidence, the kind that comes from never having your ass handed to you by a species that still uses projectile weapons. That I adjusted my optical enhancers and scanned the valley below. Thermal imaging, electromagnetic spectrum analysis, motion detection, pheromone tracking, the works. Our technology could spot a single bacterium from orbit, so finding a group of human soldiers should be child's play. Negative contact, sir, I reported, though something fell off. No heat signatures, no electromagnetic emissions, no movement patterns. Either they have evacuated or... I paused, running another scan. Still nothing. Or what soldier? Or they are still here and we can't see them. Vorth Prime's laughter buzzed through the comm like an angry insect. Impossible. Run a deep scan. These primitives don't have cloaking technology. That's when I first laid eyes on Staff Sergeant Marcus Kane. Not that I knew his name at the time, mind you. All I saw was a bush. A perfectly ordinary, unremarkable bush sitting about 50 meters from what our intelligence suggested was their primary defensive position. You know what's funny about alien invasions? They always assume they're the smartest guys in the room. 23 years in the Marine Corps taught me that assumption gets you killed faster than bad intel and worse coffee combined. My name's Marcus Kane, and I've been making bad decisions professionally since I was 18 years old. Desert Storm, Afghanistan, 3 tours that officially never happened. And now this, babysitting a bunch of refugees while bug-eyed freaks from space try to figure out if we are worth their time. The alien scouts have been buzzing around our perimeter for 6 hours now. High-tech surveillance drones, probably equipped with sensors that could count my nose hairs from orbit. Problem was, they were looking for 21st century humans using 22nd century thinking. Kane, you see those flying tin cans? Corporal Lisa Rodriguez whispered through the brush beside me. She was buried so deep in mud and vegetation that even I had trouble spotting her, and I'd been doing this since before she was born. Roger that, Rodriguez. 3 of them running search patterns. They will figure out we are here eventually. Eventually's not good enough, Sarge. We have got 42 civilians counting on us to keep them breathing. She was right, of course. 42 refugees from the Seattle evacuation, including 8 kids who'd never seen anything worse than a scraped knee before the hegemony decided Earth looked like prime real estate. Now they were huddled in caves half a mile behind us, trying not to make noise while Mommy and Daddy played hide-and-seek with creatures that could glass cities from orbit. The funny thing about advanced alien technology? It's really good at detecting advanced alien technology. Heat signatures from plasma weapons, electromagnetic emissions from force fields, exotic particle traces from faster-than-light drives. They had sensors for all of that. What they didn't have was a decent algorithm for a crazy human covered in mud and prayers. I'd spent the better part of 2 days turning myself into a convincing impression of local flora. Mud from the creek bed, mixed with clay and enough organic matter to mask my heat signature. Branches and leaves woven into my gear until I looked like something that should be growing out of the ground. The finishing touch was patience, something you can't manufacture or program into a computer. When the attack started, I was performing surgery on a 7-year-old girl with appendicitis. 16 hours later, I was huddled in a cave with 41 other survivors, listening to alien war machines tear apart everything I'd ever known. That my name is Dr. Emma Sullivan. And 3 days ago, I was chief of pediatric surgery at Seattle Children's Hospital. Now I'm the closest thing to medical support this group of refugees has, which means I get to watch children cry themselves to sleep while their parents pretend everything's going to be okay. The worst part isn't the fear, though there's plenty of that. It's the helplessness. These people look at me like I should have answers, like my medical degree somehow qualifies me to explain why aliens decided to rearrange our planet. All I can do is keep them healthy enough to survive whatever comes next. Dr. Sullivan. 8-year-old Tommy Brennan tugged at my sleeve. His parents died in the first wave of attacks, and he'd attach himself to me like a lost puppy. Are the bad men still out there? The soldiers are watching, Tommy. Sergeant Kane and his team won't let anything happen to us. It was a lie, of course. One Marine fire team against an entire alien reconnaissance unit wasn't exactly favorable odds. But sometimes lies are kinder than truth, especially when the truth involves orbital bombardment and species extinction. Through the cave entrance, I could see the valley where Kane and his Marines had positioned themselves. Nothing moved, nothing made sound, nothing indicated that 4 heavily armed humans were dug in less than a quarter-mile away. It was like they'd simply vanished into the landscape. Flying reconnaissance for the hegemony military is usually about as exciting as watching paint dry on a dying star. You scan, you catalog, you move to the next sector. Occasionally you spot something interesting enough to call in an orbital strike, but mostly it's just endless hours of looking at rocks and trees and whatever passes for wildlife on primitive worlds. Earth was supposed to be different. Intelligence reports suggested these humans had enough fight in them to make things interesting, but so far all I'd seen was empty terrain and abandoned settlements. Either they'd all fled to other continents, or they were better at hiding than anyone expected. Keth, expand your search pattern, came the order from Command Drone Alpha Prime. Previous scans indicated human military presence in Sector 779. I banked my reconnaissance drone toward the designated coordinates, running every sensor package we had. Thermal imaging, motion detection, chemical analysis, electromagnetic spectrum scanning, quantum signature tracking. If it existed in this dimension, I could find it. The valley below showed signs of recent human activity. Disturbed soil, broken vegetation, traced chemical signatures from their primitive projectile weapons. But no humans, just rocks and trees and... Waypoint one of the bushes looked wrong that I couldn't put my manipulator on exactly what bothered me about it. The thermal signature was consistent with local vegetation, the chemical composition matched surrounding flora, and it moved exactly like you'd expect from natural wind patterns. But something about its positioning felt artificial, deliberate. Alpha Prime, I've had a possible anomaly in Sector 779. Requesting permission to investigate. Define anomaly, Keth. Unknown. Intuitive assessment suggests camouflaged human position, but sensor data contradicts visual analysis. There was a pause. Proceed with caution. If humans are using advanced camouflage technology, Command needs to know immediately. 26 years old, 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 ex-husband who couldn't handle military life, and now this. Some days I wonder if I should have listened to my mother and become an accountant like she wanted. The alien drone was getting curious about Kane's position. I could see it through my scope, a sleek piece of technology that probably cost more than my hometown's annual budget. It hovered about 30 feet above the sergeant, running what looked like every scan imaginable. Kane hadn't moved in 4 hours. Not so much as a twitch. The man had turned himself into convincing landscape art, complete with a small bird that had decided his shoulder made an excellent perch. If I didn't know better, I'd swear he was just another piece of the scenery. Rodriguez, Kane's voice whispered through our short-range comm system. You got eyes on our curious friend? Affirmative, Sarge. Looks like it's trying to figure out if you are real or not. Let's help it make the wrong decision. That's when Kane did something that still gives me nightmares. Moving so slowly that individual muscle contractions were imperceptible, he reached into his pack and pulled out a small device. not high-tech alien gadgetry or classified military equipment. A simple electronic bird call that any hunting enthusiast could buy at a sporting goods store. The device chirped once, perfectly mimicking the call of a local songbird. Within seconds, 3 real birds landed near Kane's position, treating him like just another piece of the landscape. The alien drone's sensors went crazy trying to process multiple life signs in an area that should have contained nothing but vegetation. "This is impossible," I muttered, watching the sensor readings fluctuate wildly. One moment the area showed clear signs of animal life. The next it registered as empty terrain. Either our equipment was malfunctioning, or these humans had developed technology that made no sense according to known physics. "Z, what's your status?" Vorth Prime's voice carried an edge of impatience. "Command wants a preliminary report. Sir, I'm detecting what appears to be localized space-time distortion in Sector 779. Quantum signatures are inconsistent with baseline readings, and thermal imaging shows intermittent anomalies that suggest possible cloaking technology." Cloaking technology? These primitives barely have functional spaceflight. That's what makes this so disturbing, sir. If humans have developed stealth capabilities that can fool our sensor arrays, we may have significantly underestimated their technological advancement. I watched the area for another 10 minutes, documenting every sensor anomaly and quantum fluctuation. The data made no sense, but the implications were clear. Either our equipment was failing catastrophically, or humans had just demonstrated technology that shouldn't exist. "Z, pull back and prepare a full report for command. We need Xenotech specialists to analyze this data." As I maneuvered my drone away from the valley, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something obvious. The sensor readings suggested advanced camouflage technology, but visual observation showed nothing but natural terrain features. Either the humans were using equipment beyond our understanding, or they were just really good at hiding in plain sight. The drone finally gave up and moved on to terrorize some other patch of wilderness. I waited another hour before allowing myself to blink, just to make sure our alien friend wasn't planning any surprise return visits. "All clear," I whispered into my comm. "Rodriguez, Jenkins, Patterson, sound off." Rodriguez here, still breathing and still invisible. "Jenkins, sector clear." These bug eyes couldn't find water in an ocean. Patterson reporting. "If these are supposed to be the master race, we are in better shape than I thought." I allowed myself a small smile as I carefully began the process of becoming human again instead of convincing shrubbery. The bird on my shoulder, a local robin that had decided I made excellent real estate, chirped once and flew away as I slowly sat up. The aliens had just learned their first lesson about humanity. Sometimes the most advanced technology in the universe can't beat good old-fashioned common sense and a willingness to get extremely dirty. But this was just the beginning. If their reconnaissance teams were this easy to fool, I had to wonder what other assumptions they were making about human capabilities. More importantly, I had to wonder what they'd do when they realized their sensors had just been beaten by mud, patience, and a $10 bird call from sporting goods store. "Rodriguez, gather the team. We need to get back to the civilians and prepare for the next phase." "What's the next phase, Sarge?" I looked back at the valley where alien technology worth more than most planets' GDP had just been outwitted by a Marine with a sense of humor and no respect for the laws of physics. "We're going to teach these aliens why humans earn the nickname crazy enough to work." 27 successful planetary acquisitions, 14 species absorbed into the hegemony workforce, and 3 entire star systems stripped for resources. My service record speaks for itself, which is why Command assigned me to handle the Earth situation. What they didn't mention was that this particular ball of rock would challenge every assumption I'd made about primitive species. "Admiral, we have the reconnaissance report from the surface." My aide, Commander Rock 9, transmitted the data directly to my neural interface. What I read made absolutely no sense. According to our best reconnaissance teams, humans had somehow developed cloaking technology that could fool military-grade sensors. Not just basic thermal camouflage. We're talking about quantum signature manipulation and space-time distortion fields. The technical specifications suggested technology at least 50 years beyond their current development level. Rock, verify this data. Run it through Xenotech analysis. Already completed, sir. 3 separate Xenotech specialists confirmed the readings. Human stealth capabilities exceed our current understanding of their technological base. Studied the sensor logs again, focusing on the quantum distortion patterns. The signatures were unlike anything in our database, not hegemony technology, not from any of the 17 species we'd previously encountered, and certainly not what we'd expect from a civilization that still used combustion engines. This changes our invasion timeline. I decided, if humans have developed advanced stealth capabilities, we need to reassess their military potential. Prepare for extended reconnaissance operations. 3 hours after our alien friends packed up their fancy toys and left, I was still finding mud in places mud shouldn't be able to reach. But hey, when Camouflage saves 42 civilian lives and makes space invaders question their entire technological superiority complex, a little dirt is a small price to pay. Sarge, we have got a problem. Corporal Rodriguez appeared from her own hiding spot, still decorated with enough vegetation to stock a botanical garden. Jenkins picked up long-range communications chatter. Sounds like our little magic show got their attention. Define attention, Rodriguez. The kind where they are calling in Xenotech specialists and extending their reconnaissance operations. Apparently, they think we have got some sort of super advanced cloaking device. I couldn't help but laugh. 23 years of military service, and this was the first time enemy intelligence had been completely wrong in a way that actually helped us. These aliens had sensors that could probably detect a whisper from orbit, but they couldn't wrap their heads around the concept of a human being willing to sit perfectly still while covered in mud. Jenkins, Patterson, rally up. We need to get back to the refugees and brief them on the situation. The half-mile hike back to the cave system gave me time to think. Our little demonstration had bought us time, but it also created a new problem. If the aliens thought we had advanced technology, they'd eventually figure out the truth. And when they did, they'd realize that Earth's entire defense strategy could be summed up as be very quiet and hope for the best. They are back. Tommy Brennan's whispered announcement sent a wave of relief through the cave. 41 adults and children had spent the last 6 hours wondering if our protectors were coming home, or if we'd just become orphans in a very hostile universe. Staff Sergeant Kane looked like he'd been buried alive and dug himself out for fun. Mud covered every surface of his uniform. Leaves protruded from his equipment at impossible angles, and there was what appeared to be a small bird's nest attached to his helmet. Ladies and gentlemen, Kane announced quietly, I have good news and interesting news. The good news is that our alien visitors have temporarily lost interest in this particular valley. The interesting news is that they think we have technology that doesn't exist. What kind of technology? Asked Bill Morrison, a software engineer who'd been trying to keep the group's spirits up with increasingly bad jokes. The kind that lets you become invisible to sensors that can count individual atoms from space. They have apparently decided that humans have developed stealth capabilities that exceed their understanding of physics. Dr. Patricia Williams, a quantum physicist who'd been evacuated from the University of Washington, raised her hand like she was in a lecture hall instead of hiding from alien invaders. That's impossible. We don't have anything close to that level of technology. Kane's grin was visible even through the mud. That's what makes this so beautiful. Document. They're looking for advanced technology, so they completely missed the simple solution. What simple solution? Tommy asked. Mud, patience, and a willingness to let a bird use you as a perch for 4 hours. 43 years of analyzing alien technology, and I'd never seen quantum signatures like these. The data from the reconnaissance teams suggested humans had developed stealth capabilities that were theoretically impossible given their current technological base. Commander Rock, these readings make no sense. I reported through the communication array. The quantum distortion patterns don't match any known stealth technology in our database. Explain the discrepancy, specialist. The signatures suggest localized space-time manipulation, but the power requirements would exceed anything a pre-stellar civilization could generate. Either humans have discovered a completely new form of energy manipulation, or what? I hesitated, reviewing the data one more time. Or our sensors are detecting something that isn't actually advanced technology. But that's impossible. Our equipment doesn't generate false positives for quantum distortion. Run the analysis again. Command needs definitive answers before proceeding with invasion protocols. I spent the next 6 hours running every test I could think of. Sensor calibration, quantum signature analysis, electromagnetic spectrum evaluation, even gravitational wave detection. Every system confirmed the same impossible result. Humans had somehow developed stealth technology that could fool military-grade sensors without generating detectable energy emissions. Point 12 successful ground campaigns, 9 species subjugated, and a service record that impressed even Fleet Command. I've been called in to assess Earth's defensive capabilities, and what I found challenged everything I thought I knew about primitive warfare. Commander, we have visual confirmation of human defensive positions, reported my lead scout, Infiltrator Kexate. But sensor readings show no life signs in the same locations. I reviewed the tactical display, noting the discrepancies between visual observation and electronic surveillance. Impossible. Our sensors don't malfunction. That's what makes this concerning, sir. Either human stealth technology is more advanced than intelligence suggested, or they're using tactics we don't understand. I'd seen stealth technology before. Energy shields, quantum distortion fields, even basic thermal camouflage. But this was different. Humans appeared to be achieving sensor invisibility without generating any detectable energy signatures. The power requirements alone should have been impossible for their technological level. Kex, prépare de télésurveillance protocole. I want to know exactly how humans are achieving these stealth capabilities. Rodriguez, you still remember that survival course from Fort Bragg? Kane asked as we prepared for the next phase of Operation Confuse the Aliens Until They Go Away. You mean the one where they dropped us in the swamp for 2 weeks with nothing but a knife and bad attitude? Unfortunately, yes. Good, because we were about to give our space friends a masterclass in unconventional warfare. The plan was beautifully simple, which meant it had exactly the right chance of working against opponents who overthought everything. While the aliens spent time and resources trying to understand our non-existent advanced technology, we'd use every dirty trick in the infantry handbook to stay invisible. Jenkins, Patterson, you remember jungle warfare training, the part where we learned to become one with the mud. Private Jenkins grinned. Sarge, I spent 3 months in the Amazon eating bugs and pretending to be a tree. This is going to be fun. Patterson, ready to disappoint some aliens. Sergeant. The beautiful thing about fighting technologically superior opponents is that they expect you to fight like you are technologically superior. They prepare for energy weapons, electronic warfare, and advanced tactics. What they don't prepare for is 4 Marines who are perfectly willing to spend 12 hours buried in mud just to mess with their heads. This is becoming personal, I muttered, adjusting my drone sensor array for the 15th time in 3 hours. Command had ordered extended surveillance of the human-occupied valley, and every scan produced the same impossible results. Visual observation, clear signs of human military presence, sensor readings, nothing but rocks, trees, and local wildlife that I'd run diagnostics on every system twice. No malfunctions, no calibration errors, no equipment failures. My reconnaissance drone was functioning perfectly, which meant humans were somehow achieving complete sensor invisibility using technology that shouldn't exist. Keth status report came the inevitable communication from Alpha Prime. Sir, continuing surveillance of Sector 779. Visual confirmation of human defensive positions, but sensor arrays detect no artificial signatures. Clarify visual confirmation. I switched to direct optical feed, transmitting real-time imagery to command. The valley below showed clear evidence of human activity, disturbed vegetation, prepared defensive positions, even what appeared to be camouflaged equipment. I see the positions, Keth, but our sensors show only natural terrain features. Exactly the problem, sir. Either humans have developed perfect stealth technology, or what? I hesitated because the alternative explanation made even less sense than impossible technology. Or they are achieving invisibility using methods our sensors aren't designed to detect. Dr. Sullivan, can you explain what the soldiers are doing out there? Patricia Williams asked. The quantum physicists have been trying to understand Kane's tactics from a scientific perspective, which was probably missing the point entirely. I think they are winning a war using methods that aren't supposed to work, I replied, watching through binoculars as Kane's team prepared their next demonstration of human stubbornness. But how can simple camouflage fool sensors that's sensitive? 8-year-old Tommy Brennan, who'd been listening to our conversation, raised his hand. Because the bad guys are looking for the wrong thing. Patricia stared at him. What do you mean? Like when we play hide and seek at school. If you look for someone wearing a red shirt, you won't find someone wearing a green shirt. The aliens are looking for fancy stuff, so they can't see simple stuff. Out of the mouths of babes. Tommy had just summarized the fundamental flaw in alien reconnaissance doctrine with a clarity that only comes from complete innocence. Admiral, we have a priority communication from Xenotech Analysis, Commander Rock reported. Specialist Morth 7 Prime requests immediate consultation regarding human stealth capabilities. I accepted the transmission, expecting confirmation of our preliminary assessment. What I received instead was a detailed report that challenged every assumption about Earth's defensive capabilities. Admiral, after extensive analysis, I believe we may have misinterpreted the reconnaissance data. Specialist Morth began. The quantum signatures we detected are consistent with advanced stealth technology, but the power requirements don't match human energy capabilities. Meaning humans may be achieving sensor invisibility through non-technological means. Methods our equipment isn't designed to detect because we never considered them possible. I reviewed the technical specifications again, focusing on energy emission data. The complete absence of detectable power signatures was what made human stealth capabilities so disturbing. Advanced technology always left traces: electromagnetic emissions, quantum disturbances, exotic particle residue. But humans were achieving invisibility without generating any detectable energy signatures. Specialist, are you suggesting that humans have developed stealth capabilities that require no power source? I'm suggesting that humans may be using methods so primitive that our sensors can't detect them. Like hiding. All right, people, time for the grand finale. I announced to my team as we prepared for what would hopefully be our last performance for an alien audience. The plan was absurdly simple, which guaranteed it would work against opponents who'd spent the last 6 hours trying to solve a technological puzzle that didn't exist. We were going to demonstrate human stealth capabilities one more time, but this time we'd make sure the aliens got a good look at exactly how we were doing it. Rodriguez, you take the north position. Jenkins, south. Patterson, east. I will take west. When I give the signal, everyone reveals their position simultaneously. Sarge, are you sure about this? Rodriguez asked. Once they figure out we're just playing in the mud, the jig is up. Rodriguez, by the time they figure out what we have been doing, they will have wasted so much time and resources analyzing non-existent technology that they will either retreat in embarrassment or promote us to their Xenotech department. We took our positions around the valley, each of us becoming an indistinguishable part of the landscape. Mud, vegetation, patience, and the absolute certainty that sometimes the most advanced solution is also the most ridiculous solution. Final reconnaissance sweep of Sector 779. I reported to command, directing my drone through one last comprehensive scan of the human-occupied valley. The readings were identical to previous observations, visual confirmation of human military presence, but sensor arrays detected nothing artificial. Either humans had perfected invisibility technology, or our equipment had developed a sense of humor. D. Command has authorized direct observation protocols. Vorth Prime transmitted. Descend to minimum safe altitude and maintain visual contact with suspected human positions. I dropped my drone to treetop level, engaging maximum optical magnification. The valley spread out below me in perfect detail. Rocks, trees, streams, and something was moving. 0.4 separate locations showed simultaneous motion as what I had dismissed as natural terrain features began to change. Bushes rearranged themselves, rocks shifted position, and mud-covered forms emerge from the landscape like phantoms materializing from another dimension. By the seven suns of hegemony space, I whispered, watching four human soldiers stand up from positions where my sensors had detected nothing but natural terrain. They weren't using advanced technology. They weren't generating quantum distortion fields or manipulating space-time. They were just dirty, extremely, comprehensively, impossibly dirty. Ladies and gentlemen of the Hegemony Reconnaissance Division, I announced, knowing their translation software would pick up my words, you have just witnessed the most advanced stealth technology in human history. I gestured to my mud-covered uniform, the vegetation woven into my equipment, and the bird that had returned to use my helmet as a convenient perch. Specifications: 1 part local mud, 2 parts organic camouflage material, 3 parts patience, and 4 parts the absolute refusal to move even when a bug crawls up your nose. Total power requirements: 0. Total cost: approximately 15 minutes and a willingness to get extremely dirty. Rodriguez, Jenkins, and Patterson stood up from their own positions, revealing camouflage techniques that would have made our drill instructors proud and alien Xenotech specialists question their career choices. Oh, and gentlemen, I added, looking directly at the drone hovering 50 feet above us, you might want to recalibrate your sensors. They work fine, they just can't detect good old-fashioned fieldcraft. Admiral, we have unusual intelligence from the reconnaissance teams, Commander Rock reported, his voice carrying the tone of someone who just had his understanding of the universe fundamentally restructured. Define unusual, Commander. Sir, humans don't have advanced stealth technology. They have been achieving sensor invisibility by hiding, physical camouflage using local materials. Our sensors couldn't detect them because there was nothing technological to detect. I stared at the tactical display, processing this information. Commander, are you telling me that our military-grade reconnaissance equipment was defeated by mud? Mud, vegetation, and what appears to be tactical patience, sir. For 47 years, I'd commanded hegemony forces across 17 star systems. I'd defeated energy-based civilizations, conquered crystalline collectives, and absorbed species with technology that challenged our understanding of physics. But I'd never encountered opponents who could achieve tactical invisibility using nothing more sophisticated than dirt and the willingness to remain perfectly still. Commander, prepare a full report for High Command and update our intelligence assessment of human defensive capabilities. What should the new assessment say, Admiral? I consider the implications of a species that could defeat advanced reconnaissance technology using methods so primitive that our sensors couldn't detect them. Threat level: unknown. Technological assessment: irrelevant. Strategic recommendation: approach with extreme caution. They are leaving, Tommy Brennan announced, pointing toward the sky where alien reconnaissance drones were retreating toward their mother's ship. Through the cave entrance, I watched Staff Sergeant Kane and his team walk back from their final performance, still covered in enough mud to qualify as geological features. They'd just convinced an advanced alien civilization that Earth possessed stealth technology that didn't exist, using nothing more sophisticated than camouflage techniques that any hunter could master. Dr. Sullivan, Tommy asked, are the bad guys gone? I think so, Tommy. I think they have decided we are more trouble than we are worth. Kane appeared at the cave entrance, grinning despite the mud, leaves, and what appeared to be a small ecosystem growing in his hair. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that the Hegemony Reconnaissance Division has just learned why human military doctrine includes a chapter called Improvise, Adapt, and Overcome. They came here expecting to fight the 22nd century, and instead they got a masterclass in techniques that haven't changed since humans first figured out that sometimes the best way to hide is to become invisible in plain sight. As alien spacecraft retreated beyond the atmosphere, leaving Earth alone to contemplate its narrow escape from invasion, I realized that sometimes the most advanced species in the galaxy can be outwitted by the simple willingness to get extremely, comprehensively, and tactically dirty. Humanity had just won its first interstellar conflict using mud, patience, and the absolute refusal to let superior technology intimidate us into surrendering. Not bad for a bunch of primitives who still used projectile weapons.